Have you ever gotten a call that you wish you hung up on?
For some, it's not a choice. Stay tuned for the story of the 911 call that drove a man insane.
So, it's Panda's episode today. I get to pick my story, and I'm drawing from the evergreen well that is r/nosleep. I found this story called "My Boss Gave Me One Rule as a 911 Dispatcher. If a call ever comes from an old country house, you let it ring. Last night, I answered." Ooh.
I'm intrigued because there's this show on right now. It's called Paranormal 911, and it's about EMS dispatchers, police officers, firefighters arriving on the scene of some shocking event that's happened at someone's house. And these are people who have witnessed a lot in their careers, and they sometimes run into paranormal events that befuddle them and frighten them. And that's what the show is purported to be. So when you say "my boss gave me one rule as a 911 dispatcher," it reminded me of that show.
First of all, credit to the guy that wrote it, GamalFrank on Reddit. Second, I always thought this one thing. If EMT people are like the people that see the most dead bodies, how are they not like the most commonly possessed people? Because
so you imply the second
so
people die, they just jump into whatever the nearest body is?
No, but wouldn't the rate be like so much higher though if you're an EMT?
That you were getting. I don't think that's how it works. I also don't think that people who die have souls that immediately start possessing someone else. I think that possession is demonic. I don't think someone just dies and goes, I gotta jump to the next person real quick. Like those terrible Star Wars movies where Palpatine is just trying to jump to bodies at the end.
Dude, if I died in like a freak car crash and some EMT comes, are you telling me that you wouldn't possess his body? Because I would for a little bit.
I don't think you would be able to
sort some stuff out.
You can't even stay in your own body at that point. What makes you think you could possess this living person's one and force him out?
Good point. Yeah.
You can make an argument that they're faced with a lot of exposure, really, that could follow them home and haunt them further. Maybe that could be something you can make an argument for, but no, not immediate on-site accident possession.
I've been a 911 dispatcher for 12 years, the last 7 on the graveyard shift. You think you've heard it all after that long? The drunks, the domestics, the panic fumbling for words after a car crash. It all becomes a kind of white noise. A rhythm of human misery that you learn to navigate without letting it touch you. You have to. It's the only way to stay sane, really. My district is a sprawling, sleepy county that dies after 10 p.m. It's mostly soccer moms and retirees. The worst we get on a weeknight is noise complaint about a teenager who's had too much to drink at a bonfire. The job for me has become a cycle of caffeine, fluorescent lights, and a low constant hum of computer servers. I was burnt out, deeply, existentially, tired in a way that sleep just can't fix. The calls were just blips on a screen, voices to be processed, categorized, and dispatched. I was a human switchboard for other people's worst days. The first call came on a Tuesday, about 3 months ago. I'll just say this. I can relate to that mindset, but it must be so frustrating when someone calls and they're like literally having the worst day of their lives, but then on the other end, like the guy just couldn't care less because he's heard it all before.
I think that's the most frightening part about calling 911 is that there isn't some unassailable, perfect acting automaton human on the other side. It's someone that you have to entrust a complex, difficult situation in your life with immediately, and it's a person who I don't even think is maybe professionally qualified compared to other people who may be responding to the scene of the crime. They're more or less just reorienting the call to someone who could handle it better than the person you're talking to. So That's why I was like, imagine something that's like, I'm being robbed, I'm being attacked, there's something awful going on. The person on the other side is just, his last job was working at a call center, and now he's doing switchboards for 911.
It must be so like spiritually depressing as well. Like having to hear people's like wails of misery every single day. It's like, Jesus.
You either have to become immediately desensitized. So it's like you have to be someone that's desensitized to be able to do the job, but you have to be somewhat compassionate as well to want to do it in the first place. Maybe it's a job that you end up with, and that's it, and then you're stuck with it. And then it slowly just churns and grinds down your soul.
The first call came on a Tuesday, about 3 months ago. It was 2:47 a.m., the deadest hour of the deadest night. The line lit up on my console, but not in the usual way. It wasn't a cell call with a GPS ping or a landline with a registered address. It was just a raw signal designated as unregistered VoIP, which, for those of you who don't know, it means voice over internet protocol. Not unheard of, but rare. I clicked it open.
911, what is your emergency?
Static. A thick, wet sound, like listening to the radio underwater. It crackled and popped, and underneath it, I could just barely make out a sound. A whisper.
Hello, can you hear me?
It was a child's voice. A boy, I thought. Maybe 7 or 8? He sounded like he was trying to talk without moving his lips.
This is 911.
I repeated, my voice a little louder, a little cleaner.
I can barely hear you. What is your emergency?
The static swelled, almost swallowing his voice whole.
He's back. The man in the mask is back.
It's just Bane. A chill, cold and sharp, went down my spine. It was a professional chill, the one that tells you, this is real. This isn't a prank.
Okay, son. Where are you? I need an address. Hurting mommy?
The whisper came again, breaking with a sob. The static sounding like a swarm of angry insects now.
Daddy's asleep on the floor. He won't wake up. Son, I need you to tell me where you are. I can't send help if I don't know where you are.
My fingers were flying across the keyboard, trying to get a trace, but the system was kicking back errors. No location data, no subscriber info, nothing.
The old house.
He whispered, his voice fading.
At the end of the road. Please.
Then the line went dead. Not a click, not a hang-up, it just ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a line of static and terror, and the next it was just a dead channel. You know, even without the address, the old house at the end of the road was enough. Out on the western edge of the county, there's a long, unpaved road that just sort of peters out into the woods, and at the end of it, there's one house, a big, derelict Victorian thing that's been empty for as long as anyone can remember. It was a local legend, the kind of place kids dared each other to spend a night in. I dispatched a patrol car. My senior officer, a guy who's been on the force since, before I was born, came back over the radio about 15 minutes later. His voice was flat, laced with the kind of annoyance reserved for rookies and time wasters.
Dispatch, car 12 here. The property's secure. No signs of forced entry. Place is boarded up tighter than a drum. There's nobody here. Hasn't been for 50 years by the looks of it. 10-4, car 12.
I said, my own voice, betraying none of my confusion.
Are you sure? The caller was a child. He said his family was being attacked.
There was a sigh over the radio.
Listen, the dust on the porch is an inch thick. The boards on the windows are gray and rotted. If someone's in there, they're a ghost. We're clearing the call. Tell whoever's playing games to knock it off.
I logged it as unfounded and tried to put it out of my mind. A prank, maybe. A sophisticated one, using some sort of voice changer and VoIP spoofer. Kids these days, I was too tired to care. A week later, at 2:47 a.m., the same line lit up. The same static, the same terrified whispering voice.
He's in the house. I can hear him walking.
This time I felt a knot of ice form in my stomach.
Son, is this the same caller from last week?
A choked sob.
He has the mask on, the one with the scary smile. Mommy's screaming.
Faintly, through the storm of static, I could think I could hear it. A woman's scream, high and thin and distorted, like a sound being played backwards.
I'm sending help.
I said, my voice tight.
Stay on the line with me. Can you hide? In the closet.
He whispered.
He's coming up the stairs. I can hear his feet.
The line went dead. I dispatched 2 cars this time. I told them it was a repeat call, possibly a hostage situation. I didn't want them to be complacent. They took it seriously. They set up a perimeter. They used a bullhorn. They broke down the front door. The result was the same. An empty house. Thick, undisturbed layers of dust on every surface. Rotted floorboards, peeling wallpapers. The smell of decay and forgotten things. No footprints, no child, no man in a mask. No sign that a human being had set foot in that house for decades. My supervisor pulled me aside next morning. He's a large, patient man who had the weary look of someone who's seen it all twice. He told me to drop it.
It's a glitch,
he said, not meeting my eye.
Some kind of cross chatter from another jurisdiction, or recurring electronic echo. Don't waste county resources on it. If that call comes in again, log it and move on.
First of all, that's such a bad excuse. Oh, it's a glitch. The glitch just happens to be in the form of a child's voice.
Unless you're somewhere densely populated, New York City, for instance, I think people would consider this a passable use for county resources. I mean, you have some strange kid calling from an abandoned house. If anything, this calls for an investigation because it is happening. He is getting the calls and he is logging them too. And I'm assuming there's a recording as well. So his supervisor has to either acknowledge that these calls exist and that there is a boy crying on the phone, or say that they're not, which I don't think he can do legally.
Dude, the voice of the phone's like, "Hey, I'm being murdered right here, and my exact address is this." And the guy's like, "Yeah, it's probably a glitch, like Microsoft
it's probably
Word.
just some static from another county." Okay, which county? Just some county. Don't worry about it. It's like, can you name another county? Don't worry about it. Hey, isn't it lunch break anyways?
Yeah, cross chatter from like the depths of hell, maybe.
Which would be cause for even more concern.
If that call comes in again, log it and move on. But I couldn't. The boy's voice. It was too real. The terror in it was primal. You can't fake that. Not even the best actor in the world can fake the sound of a child who thinks his mom is being murdered in the next room. The calls kept coming every Tuesday. Like clockwork. 2:47 a.m. Each call was a slightly different piece of the same puzzle.
He's hurting Daddy now. There's so much red. Mommy stopped screaming. He's looking for me. I can hear him opening doors.
Every time I sent a car, every time the result was the same. The cops got angrier. I was the boy who cried wolf. My supervisor gave me a formal warning. My colleagues started looking at me funny, whispering that I walked by.
There's the delusional ghost kid guy. Oh my gosh, he's such a loser.
Look at him. He's trying to save a child.
Yeah, get a life. Why don't you go find someone having a heart attack, buddy? Like the rest of us.
It's like he like records the calls and like shows it to his coworkers. And the coworkers are still like, no, that just sounds like a glitch.
I just love the social dynamics of 911 call operators. It's like a high school for call operators, academia.
Imagine being the class clown in like a dispatcher unit. Just the dude cracking jokes for like murder calls are coming in.
That'd be a tough gig because it'd be a thin line that could get real morbid real fast. They'll laugh at everything you say, and then there's one murder where they're like, "Wow, that's not funny, man. That was a kid. Come on, man." Yeah, that'd be tough.
They thought I was cracking up, and maybe I was. I started to lose sleep. On my nights off, I found myself staring at the clock, my heart pounding as 2:47 a.m. approached. The silence was somehow worse than the calls. I became obsessed. During the day, instead of sleeping, I went to the country records office. I needed to know who owned that house. The paper trail was a mess. It had been sold and resold, owned by banks and holding companies, but I kept digging backwards through dusty ledgers and brittle property deeds. Finally, I found it. The last family to actually live there. A deed from 1968. A nice, happy family with a mom, a dad, and 2 kids, a boy and a girl. That wasn't enough, though. I started spending my days in the library's basement, scrolling through decades of local newspapers on a squeaky, ancient microfilm reader. The stale, papery smell of the archives filled my lungs. I was looking for anything tied to the house, to that family. For weeks, I found nothing. Just property tax notices and school honor rolls. And then I found it. An article from the cold, late autumn day, 1975. The headline was stark. Local family slain in apparent home invasion. My blood ran cold. I zoomed in, my hands trembling as I adjusted the focus knob. The picture was grainy, black and white. It was the house. The same steep gables, the same wide porch. Police cars were parked haphazardly on the overgrown lawn. I read the article, my heart hammering against my ribs. A husband, a wife, and a 10-year-old daughter found dead in their home. The cause of death was extensive. The article was vague, using phrases like brutal force trauma. The police report mentioned a possible intruder, a figure a neighbor had seen fleeing into the woods, described only as a tall man wearing some sort of pale, expressionless mask. But the last paragraph was what made me stop breathing. The family's 8-year-old son, it read, remains missing. Police found evidence he was hiding in an upstairs closet during the attack, but the boy has not been found. A statewide search is underway. Authorities have not ruled out the possibility that he was abducted by the assailant. The crime was never solved. The masked man was never found. The little boy was never seen again. I sat back in my chair. The library basement suddenly feeling like a tomb. The static, the whispers, the closet, the man in the mask. It wasn't a prank. It wasn't a glitch. Was I listening to a ghost? The next day at work, I felt broken. I walked into the dispatch center like a zombie. The hum of the servers sounded like a funeral dirge. I couldn't keep it in anymore. I had to tell someone. I grabbed my supervisor and one of the oldest dispatchers, a woman who'd been there for 30 years, and I dragged them into the break room. I laid it all out. The calls, the timing, the empty house, the microfilm article. I showed them the copy I'd printed out, the grainy picture of the house, the headline. I expected them to think I was insane. I expected them to tell me to take a leave of absence. They didn't. They just looked at each other. It was a look I've never seen before, of a grim, tired resignation. My supervisor sighed, a heavy rattling sound, and rubbed his temples. The older dispatcher, she just stared at the article, her face pale.
So it started again,
she said, her voice barely a whisper.
What do you mean, started again?
I asked, my voice shaking.
What is going on?
My supervisor sat down heavily.
Kid,
he said, and he looked 100 years old.
We need to tell you about the man you replaced.
He told me the story. The dispatcher who had my seat before me. He'd been a good man, sharp, dedicated, about a year before I was hired. He started getting strange and obsessed with a specific address, the old house at the end of the road. He kept sending cars out there, insisting there was a child in trouble. The patrols always came back empty. He started pulling out old files, spending his days off at the library. He became withdrawn, paranoid. He claimed he was getting calls no one else could hear.
We checked the logs.
My supervisor said, his voice low and serious.
The system never registered the calls he said he was taking. We pulled the audio recorders for his console. There was nothing on them but dead air. We thought he was having a breakdown. Stress of the job.
Wow. Okay, so I guess...
Yeah, so
I guess
there was
it really
no
did
evidence.
look like a glitch.
Yeah.
My blood turned to ice water.
The system, it doesn't log the calls for me either. They just show up on the screen and then disappear. They don't go into the call history.
The older dispatcher nodded slowly.
We know. It's the same. He told us what the calls were about. A little boy. A man in a mask.
I felt like I was going to be sick.
What happened to him?
I whispered, though I already know the answer.
One night.
The supervisor continued, his eyes fixed on the linoleum floor.
He took a call. We saw him on the console, talking, his face ashen. He was typing a report. Then he just stopped. He stood up, grabbed his jacket and his keys, and walked out without a word. The call was still active on his screen, but none of us could hear anything on it. We just saw the open line. Where did he go? He drove out to the house. His car was found parked on the road the next morning. Engine was cold. Doors were locked. He was gone.
The silence in the room was absolute.
We searched.
The old dispatcher said, her voice cracking.
The police did a grid search of the entire woods. Dogs, helicopters, the whole 9 yards. They went through the house from the attic to the cellar. They found nothing. No sign of a struggle, no footprints, no him. He just vanished, wiped off the face of the earth.
I stared at them, my mind struggling to process what they were telling me.
Why didn't you warn me?
I stammered. Okay, first of all, they are so irresponsible for not telling him. Like,
From the first
Dude.
moment, they were probably hoping that it would go away. But from his first mention of it, they should have said something.
that's so bad.
Because now
Imagine
it's
just,
too late.
like,
He's going to
applying
become
for a job.
obsessed. Yeah.
Yeah. I should just apply for... Oh, yeah, the guy before he was possessed, by the way. It's like, dude, what the hell?
or it's something like essential to your job that you need to know. It's like, we wanted you to find out that VLOOKUP on Excel for yourself. It's like, okay, thank you.
Also, I love how like this story is titled, "My boss gave me one rule as a 911 dispatcher." It's like, first of all, he doesn't even give the rule. He gives the rule only after he experiences like the ghost calls for himself.
He wants you to encounter the rule first before he makes it.
Yeah.
He said, that thing you did, you weren't supposed to do that, but now it's too late. Enjoy going insane. How could we?
My supervisor shot back, his voice rising with a frustration that had clearly been festering for years.
Hey, new guy. Welcome aboard, by the way. This console might be haunted, and the last guy who sat here disappeared. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that would have been so much better than what they did. That would have been literally been better.
You'd have thought we were crazy. We thought he was crazy until you came in here today with that same damn story. That same old damn story.
He leaned forward, his eyes locking onto mine.
This is what you're going to do. The next time that line rings, you do not answer it. If you answer it by mistake, you hang up immediately. You do not talk to him. You do not engage. You terminate the call and you clear the line. That's an order. Do you understand me? He's about to get court-martialed as a 911 operator.
For the next few weeks, I was a ghost myself. I did my job on autopilot. Every sound, every flicker on the screen made me jump. I dreaded Tuesday nights. I drank so much coffee I could feel my heart rattling in my chest. Just to stay sharp, to stay vigilant, I thought about quitting. I thought about just walking out and never coming back. Yeah, like no one's done that before. But
I
where
thought
would I
that
go?
this morning.
Yeah. Then last night it happened. It was 2:45 a.m. I was staring at the clock, my knuckles white from gripping the edge of my desk. The minutes ticked by like hours. 2:46. My mouth was dry. My heart was like a drum solo in my ears. 2:47. The line lit up. The unregistered VoIP. It felt like a physical blow. I flinched back in my chair. My training, my instincts, every fiber of my being screamed at me to not answer it. Screamed at me to answer it, sorry. There was a child in trouble. There was a job. That was the job. But I remember the pale, haunted face of my supervisor. The story of the man who had vanished. Terminate the call. I let it ring. Once, twice. The flashing light on the console seemed to sear into my retinas. My hand hovering over the button, trembling. I couldn't just ignore it. I had to answer. I had to. I clicked the button.
911, what is your...
The static was a roar, louder than it ever had been. It was a physical presence in my ear, a wall of noise. And through it, a boy's voice came. Not whispering this time, but screaming. It was a raw, ragged sound of pure agony and terror.
He's got me. He's got me, please. He's taking me. Please, sir, don't let him take me. Help me.
The sound ripped through my professional detachment and tore right into my soul. This was it, the climax, the moment the boy was taken, replaying for all eternity. My hand flew to the keyboard to dispatch a car, a purely reflexive action born of years of training. But I stopped. My fingers froze over the keys. He's gone. This already happened. It's not real. The boy was sobbing now. His screams turned into choked, gasping pleas.
Please, you promised. You said you'd send help. Don't leave me.
I felt tears welling up in my eyes. I was a 911 dispatcher. My job was to send help. And I was going to sit here and listen to a child be abducted or murdered and do nothing?
I'm sorry.
I whispered, my voice thick.
I'm so sorry.
I reached for the terminate button on my screen. My finger was a millimeter from the glass. This was it. I was choosing to save myself. I was choosing to let him go. And then the screaming stopped. It wasn't a fade out. It was an abrupt cut, as if a switch had been flipped. The roar of static had dropped to a low, sinister hum. The line was still open. Silence. My heart was in my throat. Did I do it? And then a new sound came through the headset. It wasn't the boy. It was a man's voice. A whisper. Just as terrified as the child had been, but older, hoarser. It was distorted by the same underwater static, the same swarm of electronic insects. It was a voice trying to push its way through an impossible distance, through time itself. It was a voice I felt deep in my bones. I should have recognized from an old staff photo in the hallway. The whisper was faint, but utterly, terrifyingly clear.
He's here.
I froze, my finger hovering over the screen. The voice was ragged, desperate, broken.
He sees you through the line. He's looking right at you.
A cold dread, so absolute and profound, it felt like death itself, washed over me. I slowly, involuntarily looked up from my console, across the darkened dispatch center towards the plate glass windows that looked out into the night. There was nothing there but the reflection of my own terrified face in the glass, my skin pale in the glow of the monitors. The whispering in my ear continued, a final chilling plea from a place beyond hope.
Please, get me out of here.
And that's the end of the story. Wow, okay.
So I thought this entire time that it would culminate in the 8-year-old boy being a siren trying to lure people to the house, and you find out that he was the one that psychotically killed his family all those years ago. And then it's just been stuck in a perpetual loop.
I was thinking the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really understand the ending though. So the guy that came on at the end of the line, was he the previous employee?
I think the guy that came on at the end of the line was probably whoever the man in the mask was.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that was our introduction to the man in the mask. You don't think so?
Because he referenced like old staff photos, remember?
Oh, well, that is possible.
That's a pretty cool concept. It's like if you get trapped by the thing, you become part of the call. You know, you become a character in the call. Like the old guy, he was the guy before him. He was entranced by the whole thing. He went to the house and then he disappeared. Now he's part of the call, you know?
Oh, okay. Maybe, yeah. So now the boy just needs a replacement all the time. So at first, it was the first 911 dispatcher, then the second one. Whoever's going to be on the other end of the line and send themselves over. It's just interesting that when people did go over there, nothing happened to them, including that tenured detective or the guy who was on the scene in the first place. That was like a policeman who's been on the force for a while. Nothing happens to them, but just impressionable 911 operators. But I do like this story because, to me, I enjoy the concept of repetition in paranormal stories, because I believe that instances like this, and I'm not talking maybe posited as real life stories that are tangential to what's being told in this one, whether it be fictional or not. Talking about how there keeps being an event that repeats itself in the same place at the same time, year over year, or week over week, or maybe decade over decade. And it kind of shows that maybe we in our lives leave some sort of paranormal psychic imprint. And in moments of extreme distress, it's not your actual spirit that's left behind, but some sort of undefinable, amorphous, like non-corporeal imprint of yourself and what you experience in the world that stays here, and it's kind of like littered over the planet. It's like draped over the planet, like all our human experience together, and like our toughest moments that resonate through time. You know what I mean? So that's why that kind of story got me thinking about that. Yeah, because
in Asia we have sort of like the same concept, but instead of like it not being spirits, we think it is actually like the spirits doing it. For example,
as them, literally.
If there's someone murdered, or they died in a way that they were trying to achieve something but they didn't, their spirits would try and repeat the same action over and over to try and succeed, you know. So
I like that. It's a good way of looking at it.
If you applied it to this situation, maybe back then the 8-year-old boy really did call 911, and maybe the murderer found the boy and killed him, and the spirit remains eternally calling 911 at the same time, 2:47 a.m., trying to, you know, recreate that moment.
If anything, his supervisor's right in a way, because if the 911 operator refuses to answer the call, then it's almost resolution for the boy, the spirit of the boy.
Yeah.
So if there's finally no one on the other line and he's quote unquote murdered in this copied scenario of what's happened to him before, then it's playing out the way it always did, and there's no one else on the other line listening and able to prolong his spirit's torment, you know?
True.
Yeah.
Better to show the spirit that the proverbial door is locked than, you know, give him hope, you know?
You know what else I also like, though, is that when spirits interact with, I mean, it's kind of archaic now, but I'll just use this term, technology. So when spirits are able to, and now the new formation of that is in artificial intelligence, where they say, you know, the spirit inside the machine, the ghost of the machine, and that could be like the culmination of like AI and the channeling of spirits. But for the purpose of this story, you talk about ghost calls, ghost text messages. I find that stuff really engaging. I find that intriguing. So I hope to get more stories like that.
Wouldn't it be really funny if, like, in 100 years' time, there was like a ghost inside the Discord server?
There's
the Call of Duty lobby.
Well, there's a lot of things lurking in there, so I think a ghost would be the least surprising thing to find.
So that was the story. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Stay tuned if you guys want to hear more like these stories every single week.
Be sure to like and subscribe.